My first prediction for the November SAT is that there will be a question about outliers on the test. So the biggest thing to understand about an outlier, as you can see from this example problem, there's an outlier right here, okay? Outliers pull up the mean. So the mean is, or pull down the mean if they're smaller. This one's bigger. So the mean is going to be greater than data set B. The median stays the same. And even if it changes slightly, it's so inconsequential that it will not be an answer in the SAT. So you're going to pick an answer that says that the means change and the median stays the same. So the answer is going to be B because we have an outlier that pulls up the mean. My next prediction deals with scalar multiples of different dimensions on geometry problems. So as you can see in this question, we have circle C has a radius of 3x and circle D has a radius of 81x. The area of circle D is how many times the area of circle C? Well, first of all, I want to see the scalar multiple. If I go from 3x to 81x and that's a radius, guys, that's one dimensional, okay? So that's just a length, right? So if I go from 3x to 81x, I am multiplying by 27. So this one-dimensional scalar multiple is 27. But if we're talking about areas, that's two-dimensional. So what I need to do is I need to take that scalar multiple that's one-dimensional and square it, and I will have the two-dimensional scalar multiple. So the answer is going to be 729 because the area of the circle D is going to be 729 times bigger than the area of circle C. All right, my next prediction is that you will need to know the product of solutions of a quadratic. This is something that is becoming more prevalent now on the digital SAT. It wasn't really a thing on the paper test. But as you can see here, they say in the given equation, J and K are positive constants, the product of the solutions. Okay, that should be your indicator that you're going to use C over A because that is the product of the solutions of a quadratic. How do I know it's a quadratic? Because the highest exponent is a squared. So C over A is basically going to equal AJK because they said that is the product of the solutions as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute in my values. So here's my C value. That's going to go in right there. So I've got JK over, and then here's my A value. It's 77. That's going to go on the bottom. So I have JK over 77 equals AJK. Now this is just simple algebra. So what I can do essentially, if I want to shortcut it, is divide by JK on both sides. So when I do that, what happens is I'm left with A equals 1/77. Now that's a shortcut. Sorry, I'm being a little sneaky, but you could multiply by 77 on both sides and then divide by JK and then solve for A. Either way, you're going to get 1 over 77. My next prediction is that you're going to need to use a regression at least once on this test. So regressions are something you can do in Desmos, and they're reserved for complicated algebra problems where you know the equation to the function and you're given at least 2 points on the function. So as you can see from this, it says in the xy plane, the graph of y equals g of x has a vertex at 2, 4 and passes through the points 3, 15 and 1, 25. Okay, so here's the wonderful thing about this. I know the equation when they give me the vertex, and then they gave me 2 points. So this is perfect for a regression. Let's pop this into Desmos. Okay, so first what I'm going to do is, and I just want you guys to see this, if you do regression, you hit the plus sign and you hit table, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to type in my points. Okay, on the next line, I'm going to tell Desmos what function these points belong to. Now, the table has x1s and y1 columns, so you can't use x and y, you have to use x1s and y1s, so it will know what to pull from. Also, it's just customary when you're running a regression in Desmos, it will understand that it's a regression if you use a tilde instead of an equal sign. So let's go ahead, we're going to type out our equation. We have y1 equals, and then I'm going to put my equation of a quadratic in vertex form. So it's going to be a x1 minus 2 plus 4. Okay, why did I do that? Because they said the vertex was at 2, 4, so I changed the sign of what's in the parentheses. But I forgot something. It's a quadratic. I need to square that. Okay, so what they asked for was, and let's go back to the problem so you guys can see it. They wanted to know the value of g of -1 minus g of 0, okay? So remember, whatever's in the parentheses when you're reading function notation, that's your x value. So basically, they want to know the y. So what is y when x equals -1. That's essentially what that's saying. So like if we go back into Desmos, I'm going to just go, okay, x equals -1. That'll give me a nice vertical line so I can just zoom out and quickly scroll up and find the intersection point. And when I go and hover over it, there's my point right there. It's at -1, 148. Great. Okay. So let me go ahead and write that down. So we've got 148 minus, now we need to find g of 0. This should be a cakewalk. Let's go back. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. I'm going to type in x equals 0. Now we see a black line. I'm going to zoom out. It looks like we have to go back down to find the intersection point, and I'm going to hover my mouse around the area. And as you can see, it is 68. So when I do 148 minus 68, all right, guys, here's the funny thing about getting ChatGPT to write you questions. Even if you have a paid version, they are sometimes unreliable. So I modeled this after another question on the SAT, but ChatGPT didn't put the right answers down. So anyways, let's just ignore all those multiple choice answers. The answer on this one is 80. Comment below and confirm that for me. I'm pretty confident that that's the right answer, but let me know if it's not for some reason. All right, my fifth prediction is that you need to use the density formula. The density formula is pretty simple, but if you don't use it, you lose it. So the minute you see the word density in an SAT math problem, I want you to write down the formula D equals M over V, which is basically density equals mass over volume. Then what you're going to do is simple substitution. They said the density is 770, so that will go in for the D. They said, what is the mass? So that means you don't know the M, and we can get the volume because they said the length of the edge of the cube is 0.7 meters. So when you do 0.7 cubed, you get 0.343. So that'll go on the bottom. And then when you cross multiply, you end up getting M equals 264. My prediction number 6 is an oldie but a goodie. I think they're going to throw in a conversion problem on this test. And the key is to recognize when they give you a simple conversion, if they are asking for something in square feet, you need to square both sides of that conversion to start. So that means 1 mile squared equals 27,878,400. Wow. Okay. That is in square feet. So now we can actually solve this problem. So if we have 2.75 square miles, I'm going to multiply by square feet on top. And then I'm going to put square miles on the bottom because I want square miles to cancel with square miles. And then when I multiply straight across, I end up with C, 76 million and some change. All right, guys, my 7th prediction is that you're going to have a triangle proof problem. So I've already on this problem copied down the pictures. Of course, they're not drawn to scale. By the way, I suck at drawing. I don't know I can't even draw stick figures. I swear, you guys, it's really, really bad, but I tried my best here. So they gave us a couple things. They said XY is 8 and so is PQ. I filled those in. They said angle X is 50 and angle P is 50 degrees. And they said, what is sufficient to prove XYZ is congruent to triangle PQR? Here's the thing I need you guys to watch out for. There's a naughty word that you cannot prove congruency with. And I don't want to get in trouble on YouTube or offend anybody, so I'll just do it backwards. You cannot prove congruency with SSA. Okay, so if you have a side and then an angle in that order, it's not going to work. And what the SAT will do, they'll give you one of those options. So you have to make sure not to include it. So let's just start with 1. The measures of angle Y and Q are equal. Okay, if we had Y and Q, that would be perfect because we would have basically angle, side, angle. That is one way to prove congruency. That works. So 1 is sufficient. So we're going to get rid of B and C because those both say 1 is not sufficient. Okay, then we have the lengths of sides XZ and PR are equal. Okay, if we had a length of XZ right here, and PR, we would have side, angle, side. That's also perfect to prove congruency. So 2 is also sufficient. So, okay, the last one that we're going to test is the lengths of sides YZ and QR are equal. So if we have YZ and QR, what happens? We end up with the naughty word, A, angle, side, side. Don't do that. So 3 doesn't work, so you would pick 1 and 2. Okay, guys, my 8th prediction is that we're going to have a tricky linear problem because this shows up on every single test without fail. So let's just run through this again as a reminder of how to do these. They said a painter charges a flat rate of $150 for the first 2 hours. Okay, so the flat rate is going to be a constant. I'll put that up front. And $50 for each additional hour of work. Well, I have the total number of hours X. I have to take away 2 because this accounts for the first 2 hours. Take away first 2 hours because, guys, the first 2 hours were up here. So you don't want to double count those. So then when you simplify it, you end up with 150 plus 50x minus 100. And that gets you none of these answers. Thanks, ChatGPT. That's going to get you 50x plus 50. Lesson learned. Do not use ChatGPT, even if you have the paid version 4.0 or whatever it's called, because it is unreliable. Worse than my magic 8 ball. All right, prediction number 9. We're going to have exponent rules on this test, and they love fractional exponents lately. So when given an equation like this, if you notice that you have an n and a k, you want to try to eliminate one of them. This one is k to the first power. So if we can get this to be k to the first power, then we can set the n's equal to each other and just substitute in. So I'm going to raise this whole thing to the 5/2 power. So then that would be n to the 25th 6th power equals k. So now I can substitute. So we're going to have n to the 25th 6 equals n to the 4a plus 1. So that means 25 6 equals 4a plus 1, which is really 6 over 6. So when I take away 6 over 6, I end up with 19 6 equals 4a. I'll multiply by 1/4 on both sides. So we have 19 24 equals a, and boom, you're done. One thing I'll say is lately on the digital SAT, it's been trending where you need Desmos less and you can do stuff by hand more. So just keep that in mind. Here's a prime example where it's just easier to do it by hand. All right, this is it. My last prediction. We made it all the way to the end. Thanks for sticking it out with me. So I think there's going to be a tricky absolute value question on this test. So they said, what is the value of k over 25 if the given equation has only one solution? All right, well, first off, this problem should just say k, because then when we divide by 25, that's how you get the k over 25. Good job, ChatGPT. You're amazing. Just kidding. So then basically at this point, if you're going to have one solution, typically what would happen when you have an absolute value, not to go off on a tangent, you'll rewrite it and you'll say, well, x minus 4 equals k over 25, or you'd say x minus 4 equals negative k over 25. But the thing is, you want these to be the same, okay? If those are the same, then you'll end up with one solution. So the only way you can get those two things to be exactly the same is if k is 0, so you're going to pick 0.